there, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Dr. Jason Pape, chiropractor, coming at you live. I'm hoping this music will end at some point. All right, there it is. It played me in, or AI generated. Awesome. Welcome, Dr. Jason. Wow, you can hear me twice. So which tab is? All right. So we had a little production error there. So welcome, Dr. Jason Pape, chiropractor extraordinaire, coming at you live from the Vitality Center in the Vitality Theater. So for those who don't know me, Dr. Jason Pape, chiropractor extraordinaire, bringing you education, information, motivation, inspiration on the regular. And even though it is Motivation Monday, we're going to do a little science stuff tonight. We're going to do a little keto stuff, and we're going to talk about this new research that just came out on GLP-1s. So let's hit the ground running, shall we? So those of you who don't know me, if you've never seen me before, and it's your first time seeing me in all these streams, I believe we're on Facebook in 2 places and YouTube tonight. Producers, are we on YouTube tonight? They're ignoring me. Are we on YouTube and Facebook? Thank you. That's all. I just needed a yes. And on down below, you can follow us on all the places. There's our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter, our TikTok, our YouTube. I don't know if our Rumble's on there, but it should be. And I don't want to turn off the ticker. So if you've never seen me before, please drop a number 1 in the comments below. If you've seen me before and have come back for more, drop a 2. If it is your first time, let me know where you're watching from. If you have questions anytime during the videos, feel free to drop them here on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It'll show up on all the places. All right, let me see if I get my chat feed up here on the side, because I don't believe they have it up here for me. There we go. Okay. So what's up, Helena? Anyway, let's talk about ketones a little bit first. There's a little, if you ever decide you want to hit the little barcode in the corner there, if you want to know about what I'm drinking and how to get it, let me know. It makes you like a super soldier, like Captain America. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about ketones and the best way to measure them. I got this question the other day. I haven't talked about this in a while. I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about it. We are at the beginning of the year. We're about a month in. A lot of people have made some lifestyle shifts. Some people may have decided to go keto. If you are one of those people, congratulations. Good for you. If you have questions, I'm here to answer them. I am Dr. Ketone. But one of the biggest challenges I find people have with keto is they try to measure their ketones. And there's certain ways that are better at different times within your keto lifestyle journey that are more effective. And sometimes people make mistakes based on using the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I'm going to break it down for you. So for those of you who don't know what a ketone is, I'm going to explain that what it is for you right now. So we have 2 fuels in the body. We have glucose and we have ketones. When your body breaks down glucose, when your body breaks down carbohydrates and most protein, it makes glucose. When you break down fat, you make ketones. Both are fuels that our body can use to make energy, okay? When you are in a time of deprivation, if you will, your body will break down fat for fuel. And otherwise, when you have food, your body's usually breaking down this food to make glucose. All right. We are hunter-gatherers. We're meant to be in both fuel sources. We evolve with both. We are dual fuel burners, folks. But because we eat carbs, we don't starve. Guess what? Not many of us get ketones anymore. Most of us spend most of the time burning glucose for fuel. Now, I'm going to break down why that's an issue a little bit later when we get into the GLP-1s and some of the new research that came out, so I can unmuddy the waters for you guys about that. So when you start doing a keto diet, so people do keto because they want to burn fat, maintain their muscle, and it really can be a really effective way to shift your body composition. So it's a high-fat, low-carb, moderate protein-based diet. So by doing that, you're starving your body of the carbohydrate stores, giving it enough protein that it won't break so much down into glucose because you're giving it so much fat to burn for fuel. So your body takes time to shift over into ketosis, basically the state of making ketones and then burning them, becoming keto adapted. And because we become so efficient at burning glucose, our body can be a little resistant. So hunter-gatherers spend 70% of the time, 70, burning ketones for fuel, 30% of the time with glucose. But we burn glucose almost all the time, so our bodies become so efficient at it, good, bad, or otherwise, that it makes it a little harder for us to switch back over, okay? So when you first start doing this, because your body hasn't seen ketones in a while, you are not very adept at using them. So if you start doing a keto diet in the beginning, your body's going to resist. And then eventually, once it's resisted long enough, it starts to make the ketones, and then it has to start using them. And eventually it says, well, I got to start using these things because there's no other fuel around, and I know how to do this. And I'm a little rusty. So in the beginning, I may not use them efficiently. So when you're burning ketones for fuel, early on, you're not very efficient at it. And when you have ketones made, you have two options. You can use it or lose it. The body doesn't take ketones and shove it into fat. Glucose is what makes us put things into fat stores. Okay? Ketones are what we break down and take it out of the fat stores. Okay? So our body has to use them. So you start breaking down fat, whether it's from your own body's tissue, fat tissue, and or from the food you're eating. Your body has to take this ketone called beta hydroxybutyrate in its active form and has to use it. You can either use it or you can lose it. Okay? That's it. And when the body loses it, it excretes it out through your kidneys. All right? And we can measure that in your urine. So a lot of people, when they first start the keto lifestyle, will pee in a cup to know when they're in ketosis. And early on, that's helpful, right? Because you're not going to be efficient. So you'll get the urine strips, you'll put it in there, and eventually the color should get darker and darker on the strip where it eventually turns purple, that I'm in ketosis. Yay! Okay? That's what we're going for. But that does not work as you get more adaptable, and I'll explain as we go ahead. So I'm going to grab a little thing here on our screen. Tracking Ketones, Tools for Every Stage of Your Keto Journey by Dr. Jason Pape. Wow, look at that. My staff's awesome. Next, Introduction to Ketones. So again, fuel concept like we just talked about, and the body can either use them or lose them. And the keto diet, we explain what that is. So I kind of get these up here for a second for you guys. But here's where we get into our different sources. We can do urine strips, we can do breathalyzers, and we can do blood tests. Not the kind of breathalyzers you're breathing in when you get pulled over by the cops, even though sometimes they can do both things. Now, don't ask the cops if you get pulled over from a DWI. Hey, can you measure my ketones while you're at it, bro? That's not what it is. So anyway, I do not get pulled over a lot. My producer is asking me. I don't get pulled over because I am a safe driver and never drive with alcohol in my system. All right. So urine strips are great for beginning because they're affordable, simple to use, ideal when starting the keto diet. You dip it in. And again, what Vincent put right here is they become less reliable as your body adapts to using ketones efficiently. So let me explain that for you in a second. So in the beginning, use it or lose it. So as you start to get into ketosis, your body will start making ketones and it won't use them very efficiently. A small percentage gets used for fuel. The rest will get excreted. So early on, it's helpful. So what happens as you become adapted? As you become more keto adapted, what might happen to the amount of ketones that come out? So if you are watching and would like to put a comment below, let me know if you think that eventually urine strips may or may not be effective anymore. And if so, maybe tell me why. So drop a comment in the comments below. I'll wait. While I wait, why don't you click on that little link up at the top if you can find out how to get into ketosis on your own in less than 60 minutes, which I am doing right now. I live in ketosis, but this gets me even deeper in. Yummy good. So anyway, because no one wanted to give me an answer, I'll give it to you myself. Whether you're watching live and replay, please do that. But the fact is, when you become more adaptable, you excrete less because your body becomes more efficient. So what might happen is you're doing keto, you're doing good, the strip's getting darker and darker over time. You're watching your macros, you're eating your food right. And then eventually the numbers, the thing gets lighter. Like, well, what's going on here? Why is it getting maybe lighter? I must be doing something wrong with my food. I better change it up. No. Big mistake for people. Because what's happening is now your body's becoming adapted to it better. The urine strips are not much more effective anymore because you're not losing them. You're using more than losing. Right? Is this making sense? If it's making sense, drop a little light bulb or a comment number 3 in them comments below and let me know you guys are getting this. But you should understand that means your body is becoming more efficient. So as you become more efficient, the urine strips become less reliable. So that's why I tell people if you're going to switch to something else, you could switch to a breath meter. So what do the breath meters do? Well, they measure the breakdown of ketones in your breath, acetone. All right? So what can happen is when you breathe in the breathalyzer, it measures the acetone, and based on that tells you kind of an approximate level of ketosis. Now, These things they're not the most expensive things in the world. You can probably get a good one. I forget the one we used to use. That was about $90. You can get it and then plug it in your computer and measure things for you. So those are helpful. But the thing is, they're not good early on, because early on, are you efficient at burning ketones? Well, no. So you may be doing all the right things, but if you blow in the meter in your first week or two and nothing really shows up, you're going to be really disappointed. Think you have to change your food. And early on, maybe you're doing it right. So I usually tell people you can start with urine and then move to breathalyzer later as your one before efficient, and that will help. All right. I hope this is making sense. If it is, drop a number 4 in the comments below and let me know that you guys are understanding this, whether you're watching live or on replay. This should all make some sense. Now, again, false positives can still happen. All right. You ever hear of people who have diabetes having fruity type breath? That's that acetone. So when you have uncontrolled diabetes, your body can sometimes go into something called diabetic ketoacidosis, which is not a nutritional ketosis. It's dangerous. You might get some of that same breath. So you got to be careful. All right. Lastly, there is blood. So blood to me is the most efficient way. All right. So you get a special blood monitor. Again, a lot of these monitors that people use for their glucose monitors, they can do both. You have to buy the ones that do both. They have to have specific strips for that versus ketone strips, versus glucose strips. And you can measure your glucose. The cool thing about it gives you a real-time measure of millimoles in your blood. So it actually tells you what your actual levels are. It's not about how much I'm burning and excreting or out of my urine or my breath, right? It tells you a number. Now, a number goes up and down, right? It can go up the deeper you are in ketosis, but as your activity levels go up, sometimes that number can drop, right? It's your fuel, right? So if you're in your car and you have a full gas tank and then you just slam on the gas and go 100 miles an hour down William Floyd Parkway, yes, you might burn through your gas a little quicker versus someone who's maybe not doing as much during the day, right? So there can be some fluctuations. So just monitor them. But actually, blood ketones is probably the more accurate thing to do. But you have to puncture your skin. It's not the most fun thing. For me, I've been doing keto so long, I kind of know when I'm in and when I'm out. All right. I spend most of my time in. When I'm out, it's when I basically feel like I'm yawning at 3 o'clock in the afternoon most of the time, and I'm out of ketosis. But that doesn't really happen very often for me. I kind of know what it feels like to be in and be out. All right. So, but when you've done it long enough, you can kind of give yourself that tell and not have to necessarily measure. But it's always helpful to measure here and there just to know. And if I'm ever concerned, I just drink these and I'm in ketosis in less than an hour and I don't care. So it's kind of a cool little hack. So if you guys are picking this up and putting it down, basically what it comes down to is early on in keto, the urine strips are great. As you get further on, after that first few weeks, maybe a month, not as accurate. Yes, the breathalyzer things can be good, but it's more so after you've been doing this for a few weeks, maybe a month or two. But blood is best. That can help you measure at any time in your journey. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. And I'm going to say thank you about this, but we're not done. So we're not done. And yes, I do a lot of fasting because I've been doing this a long time. So that's why I don't eat most of the day, because I'm used to being in a fasted state. Now, let's talk diabetes. So we are meant, I think I've talked about this earlier when I did a GLP-1 video. So basically, a lot of people will use glucose too much for too long, and their body becomes adapted to it because they're not supposed to see it all the time. Remember, hunter-gatherers had food and not food. When we had food, we burned glucose. We burned ketones. And when we had our food, we had excess calories. We burn what we needed, store a little bit in our muscle and liver, and the rest we could shuttle into fat. Because eventually we'd run out of food, had to switch fuel sources to ketones and burn the fat we had. But if you don't ever really get out of burning glucose because the food supply never ends, well, eventually you keep seeing glucose, you keep putting into fat. All right. That's what makes us heavy. It's not about the fat. It's about the carbs. All right. And they took fat out of our foods. And if you take fat out of our food gets shitty tasting. Pardon my French. So they add in sugar. You know, they started taking sugar out of our fats out of our foods in the 50s and 60s. Ansel Keys, we can thank for that. And over the last 70 years, we've done nothing but get fatter and have more cardiovascular issues. We talked about this in my cholesterol video. So understand that it's about the sugar, not about the fats that really make you fat. Right? Not too much of anything is not a good thing anyway. Not too much fat, on its own with carbs, not good either, especially bad fats. But in general, it's about glucose that makes you heavy. So, but glucose needs that friend we talked about. It needs insulin to get in the cell. Too much glucose, too much insulin, body stops listening to the insulin over time. We get type 2 diabetes. We get insulin-resistant diabetes. So what they do is they give you these drugs to help modulate that. So there's different classes and many different types of classes of diabetic drugs. Some are like things like metformin, which kind of stops production of glucose in your liver. There's things like Giardia, Jardiance, that makes you pee out excess glucose. I love that one because that'll just make you think you're okay and give you ketoacidosis. And then there is the things like the GLP-1s. The GLP-1s are these things that actually are drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, things like that are meant to make your body make more insulin. So it's like, hey, we've been gotten too resistant to glucose. So we only make so much insulin, our body's still not listening, and our glucose keeps going up. Well, we can give someone drugs that help to lower the glucose, or we can give someone insulin, right? But they're like, hey, what if we trick the body into making more insulin on its own? So we super freaking pump up this pancreatic beta islet cells to make more glucose. That's healthy. Make more insulin, but that raises the insulin level, gets the glucose in. What the GLP-1 drugs do is they make you have a supercharge of that insulin level, all right, to shuttle that stuff in, but it also helps burns fat. They start losing fat. The problem is you don't just lose fat, you lose weight. All right, so the problem with GLP-1s is they make you lose weight, not fat. All right, fat is the things that are not muscle and protein and carbs. All right, weight is all this, right? You don't want to lose your muscle. You don't want to lose all that kind of stuff. And GLP-1s make you lose everything. That's why there's so much muscle wasting with GLP-1s. It's a common fact. Now, GLP-1s also lower stomach emptying, which causes other issues. We've talked about that before. It can even cause gastroparesis. But we're not going to talk about that tonight. But understand that it makes you lose everything. So muscle wasting is this big thing. So now you're seeing all these class of things that are coming out to support GLP-1 so you don't lose all that muscle mass. And a lot of times you come off these drugs, you gain the weight back. Again, for me, I believe these drugs are going to start leaving people with so much higher levels of insulin so much earlier, even if they're not type 2 diabetic, that eventually they're going to develop type 2 diabetes. But we'll see what happens over the next few years. But here's what they have started to find out as the rampant use of these drugs for weight loss has been. All right, in 2014, when these things started really coming on the market, they were used for diabetics who were on insulin to take them off the insulin, basically. It wasn't something you gave to everybody, right? But we've used them more and more in the last few years. There's been this huge boom, all right? Because they saw weight loss, rapid if they wanted it, right? And you can't get a prescription for it most times if you're not diabetic, so you got to pay out of pocket. And a lot of these doctors and other practitioners wanted to make some money and help people lose weight. And it's become this crazy industry. All right. And the natural ones are a different story, but they work a little bit more with your body's own GLP-1. It's not a drug that turns things on and off. But the problem is, you may have seen this new study that just dropped a few days ago. Now, I'm going to break it down because I think it's, as much as I don't like GLP-1s, I'm not going to be the guy who takes a study, doesn't read it, and makes you scared of something more than you should be. Okay, so if you actually look at the study, people are saying, oh, it's causing cancers and all these kinds of things early on in usage. And yes, it can, or has been shown to in this one study. So basically, they look retroactively, only people who took things like GLP-1s and other types of diabetic drugs. Thank you. Couldn't get it out. And they look at over 350,000 people over this time span. And they look at them to see correlatively what kind of other things happen. And they look at thyroid cancer specifically. And they found that over the long haul with these drugs, they didn't see any difference between GLP-1s and other types of drugs for diabetes leading to thyroid cancer. And that's a higher risk percentage, right? It wasn't statistically significant. But what they did notice is those who were early using them, there was a higher risk factor. So what they found is, okay, if you start with a GLP-1 in that first year of using it, there's a statistically higher risk of developing thyroid cancer than any of these other drugs or these people without them versus with. After that first year, it levels out. So basically, if you were new to GLP-1s you have a higher statistical risk, possibly, of developing thyroid cancer than if you had not. But after that first year, that risk seems to be mitigated to the point where if you don't get it in that first year, it's not as likely to happen for you. Listen, it's not the best data support, but that's kind of what the data says. All right. So thyroid cancer is still severe, it's still serious. And if you're going to get this drug just because you want to lose some weight and you've already had a history of thyroid cancer, I think you'd be remiss and you'd be very smart not to come to these drugs. All right. If you have a family history, definitely stay away. If you have a history of any kind of thyroid, I would stay away from these drugs, especially because that first year shows a higher risk. So why would you if you're already predisposed to some issues, why would you throw this into the mix? I don't like these drugs. And I'm not going to sit here and just hit the alarm cowbell and say, oh, they're causing all these cancers and all this. I'm going to talk about true science. And this is what the research has shown so far, is that there's a higher statistical risk of developing thyroid cancer in the groups that use GLP-1s in their first year than other things. Take that with what you will, because there's enough risk inherent in this drug, right? I believe eventually it'll start to lead to more type 2 diabetes. I believe the risk is shown gastroparesis. It is shown issues with gut and pancreas and pancreatitis. Well, no kidding. You're supercharging the beta islet cells that pump out insulin. I poke you in the butt with an electric prod. Eventually you might be a little inflamed too. So is that making sense? So that's what the research really shows. So take a look at the research. It's not a huge study in the way of lengthy reading, but that's basically what the study showed. So, if you see some people take headlines and they kind of run with them, and I can't stand that about any study. And it was a retrospective study. They didn't actually go out there and do the study specifically look for thyroid cancer. So they didn't say, all right, we're going to take 100 people or 1,000 people, or we're going to give them all GLP-1s, and then we're going to have this other group over here that's a control, and we're going to watch them for the next year and see who gets cancer. That's not ethical. All right. But not in adults. You can do it ethically. You can do it to rats, apparently. But they basically did a study and looked at all these people and called the data. And these things can be very accurate. But again, statistically speaking, in that first year, they were a higher risk factor of developing thyroid cancer for those using GLP-1s. After that first year, it seems to be not statistically significant. So you're like, well, doc, I want to lose weight, and I don't want to have that muscle wasting you talked about, which is a real thing. And I don't want to spend all that money for a drug I stab myself with, and I really can never come off and could cause other problems. And God forbid, I don't want to deal with thyroid cancer. Well, why don't I go into ketosis? Well, that sounds like an amazing idea to reverse your diabetes and to burn your fat, maintain your muscle, and get all ripped and shredded. How's that sound? So there's 3 ways you can get into ketosis. 1, do a keto diet. High fat, low carb, moderate protein. Not the easiest thing for a lot of people, but you can do it. 2, fasting. Take periods of time where you don't eat. You can take 24, 36, longer fasts. Support them with water, maybe a little electrolytes. I don't like a dry fast personally. Or you can drink them. So I like to drink them. I like to do all 3. I live in I do a keto lifestyle. I do a lot of fasting, and I drink them. Now you can do a combination of any of those things. Now here's the really cool thing about drinking them. The cool thing about ketones is if you drink them, you don't necessarily have to be doing the lifestyle to drink them. Why should you be not allowed to have the benefits of ketones? And if you look up ketones and in the research, you'll see so many things that it can do, and it's amazing for the body in the research. But why wouldn't you give yourself the opportunity for better fat loss, better focus, better sleep, better gut health, less anxiety, all those things? Why should you stop yourself from that system, right? You can get into ketosis many different ways. I like to drink them to get into there. I'm not saying these things do any of those things in the way of curing any problems, but if you look at what ketones do, and if I give your body some more ketones, well, maybe it can help you do those things. Look what the research says. I make no claims. But if you want to be a super soldier like me and Captain America, drink your ketones. In fact, I have a little something to show you all. Apparently my producers realized I still had in one of my rooms somewhere. But truth, justice, in the American way, folks. Patriotism is back. So I am nothing but curious. So, by the way, last thing I'm going to say here is that Tuesday, tomorrow, they are going to start trying to confirm Mr. Maha himself, Bobby Kennedy. And it's not about politics. This is about health and wellness. And this is something that we all align on, is that we want to keep everyone safe. We want to keep everyone healthy. We want to be transparent about the things. And the best thing that could ever happen would be him to be the head of Health and Human Services. So tell your senators to confirm him. I think we need him to really get us healthy again. We don't need someone he's not someone who's going to need a preemptive pardon to protect him from all the things they may do to hurt people. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope that I understand about that study that just came out about GLP-1s. I hope this can help you understand how to measure your ketones. And if you want to know more about how to get them, feel free to jump on there below on that little QR code there. Is there anything else I should put up here tonight? All right. So that's it. And that's all. And Helena and everyone else who came to watch, thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you found this useful, please feel free to share this out. Put it on your page, private message in the group, in a post, whatever. All right. Let other people see what you're seeing. Tell them how amazing this dude here is, this Dr. Ketone guy. And I can help you out. And if you're local to Long Island and want to come to the Vitality Center, see myself and any of the amazing practitioners we have here, our contact should be below. Oh, it's not. Can I put our contact on there? Is that on here somewhere, Vincent? We don't have our contact on here. Oh, I'll go to the last page of our slides. How's that sound? And there it is. Hold on. Bam! VitalityCenterLI.com. Our phone number. What's this phone number? So we're going to not call that phone number because I don't know why that's on there. My office manager decided to put his own phone number on there. So if you'd like to meet Vincent, he's a very nice young man. Feel free to give him a call. Otherwise, 631-864-2784. This is what live TV will do for you folks. So we really appreciate it. If you found this valuable, please write value in the comments below. If you have questions, comments, concerns, drop them in there. We really appreciate it. And watch us every week. And we will see you all in the next video. Dr. Ketone